I see on FaceTime this little fur ball just running around the hotel room, jumping from kid to kid, licking face to face.
And now, coming to you from the K2 Studios in San Diego, California, it's the world-famous Chris and Kristine Show.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for listening, and I am Chris.
And I'm Kristine, and welcome to episode 83 of the Chris and Kristine Show.
Yes, the 83rd episode. Hey, we're getting up there almost to 100.
You say that every week.
I know. I just love saying it because pretty soon this will be 883 episode.
That's true, as long as we don't kill each other first.
Yes, that might actually do happen. So Kristine is back in town this week. She and the little kids were out of town all week long. I had the house all to myself, which may sound amazing, but I had to work and I was pretty busy and actually had some interviews on the other podcast I had to set up. They were fantastic, by the way.
How's that busy badge? You shining it up quite a bit right now?
I got a busy mantle, plaque, trophy. It's a big banner.
Busy man of the year.
Yes, it says, I'm too busy to do anything, but just be busy.
We should make the busy awards. Be like, who's the busiest? Let's see. Give us your pitch.
Well,
busy awards.
It all begins and ends with me. So all other competitors don't even bother applying.
Oh, very much so. So actually, the busy badge would be the narcissism badge.
Wait, what?
It's all about you.
No, it's not all about me, baby. So, hey, Kristine, thank you so much for showing up back at the house last night. You got in, what time did you get in last night?
Well, our plane landed at like 10:15 p.m. last night.
Wow, well, check that out. So today's episode is going to be all about Kristine and her adventures on the spring break.
Yeah. We were spring breaking, but wait, I had 3 kids with me.
All 3 kids went on an adventure with Kristine. So you guys decided to embark on this adventure, what, Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday, but let's back this up.
How further do you want to go back up?
Can we just have a moment of silence for the fact that I decided to single-handedly travel with 3 boys for the first time ever? Let's just have a moment of silence and sympathy for that. That's like you asking for a busy badge. I traveled with 3 children during spring break and COVID. You're welcome, Chris. You're welcome.
Well, thank you. I wish I had the week off. That would have been so much fun. I wish I could have gone with you guys.
I know, but really, I think it would have been a bit overwhelming for you.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, because of all of the requirements. I mean, the great thing is we had TSA pre-check, but like the travel requirements now and all of the different moving parts, and then, with the added travel challenge we had on the way back, which we'll share about at the end of this episode, I think it might have been a bit too much for you.
You're probably right, actually. So take us back to last week. It was Monday, right?
Yeah, well, no, it was Tuesday. So the whole reason for the trip was to pick up a special little package, which we'll talk about at the end. But my goal with going on the trip was each of the kids was saying they really wanted to go with me, and I couldn't take one and not the other. And so a couple months ago, I decided, once I knew the date for sure, that since we had so many points saved up on Southwest Airlines, that I would take all 3 boys. And they're 16, 11, and 8.
The ages of the kids.
Yes, they are 16, 11, and 8-year-old boys. And they like each other when they like each other, and when they don't, they really don't.
It's a lot of testosterone, just like fighting off each other. Each of them want to be, especially the older boys, each of them want to be like
king of the mountain.
Yeah, king of the mountain, the one in charge, the one running the games. Alpha male, the games they want to play with each other. They each kind of are like, well, I want to do it this way. No, I want to do it this way. They all kind of control each other. And poor little Mason, he's along for the ride, just going.
Although now he's starting to step up and tell them to leave him alone, and him trying to call the shots. And so it's an interesting dynamic. But we ventured out on Tuesday, so all 3 boys were here. Well, Zeke came in the Thursday before, so I'd been at the airport getting him, and then the littles came back Tuesday morning.
So last week Ezekiel came in prior to you leaving the week after that.
Yeah, he's on spring break for 2 weeks.
So he was here for the weekend, and then come Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Okay, I was trying to build everybody up to the Tuesday.
No, I was trying to say it. Come on now.
Okay.
On Tuesday, the littles came back from their mom's house at 9:30 in the morning, and I still had 3 or 4 hours of work. And they were so excited. They were like crazy. And I was trying to take these conference calls, and Zeke's here. So he's in what's normally my office. And it was like crazy town. So I kept having to tell people like, we're getting ready to take the littles on their first ever plane flight. So please, I apologize if you hear them, because they were like running around trying to pack their backpack, and like, I don't know, maybe they thought that they were like never coming back, because they're like,
what?
I want to take all my money, and I'm going to take this special thing that I want. Oh, Mason had the special pillow he'd bought the week before. I want to take my special pillow. And it was so funny.
I remember hearing them. They were so excited. Like, you can hear the giddiness in their voices when they were talking about going on the trip and flying for the first time ever and getting to the airport. And they were taking my old GoPro, Jacob was, and he was actually vlogging or videotaping himself about packing his stuff and getting ready for the trip. And while they're in the airport, he's videotaping himself in the airport, getting on the airplane.
But before we get to that, I had to sit them all down and talk with them about the rules of traveling. And so we had to sit them down and talk about, like, this is a big deal, me traveling with all three of them. And you were saying something like, this is a trial run. Like, if you do good this time, it'll determine whether or not you all get to go on a special trip like this again. Because I get more vacation time. Well, actually, you get more vacation time from work than I do, but mine fits more around the kids' schedule. And it makes it so that, like, on spring break, I had a few days of personal time I could take them. And so they're like, okay. And then I had to give them the lecture of, like, when we go through security, here's what you don't do. And then they wanted to, like, videotape going through security. I was like, absolutely not.
Oh, wait, you can't do that?
You cannot.
You're not allowed to do that?
You can't have your cameras out. You can't have your cameras.
You can't put your camera through, like, the little, like, X-ray machine as it goes through.
Oh, well, I'm sure.
Videotape it going through the machine.
I'm sure you could, but I mean, like, Jacob wanted to have the GoPro out, like, filming going through the TSA screening.
What'd they say?
I told him beforehand, like, don't even try.
Right. Okay.
And it was great because we did have TSA pre-check, which means we didn't have to take any electronic devices out or take our shoes off. So if you know boys, they're very particular about their shoes, and they take forever to put them on and take them off. And then they have a ton of electronic devices when they travel. Oh,
gosh. And iPads and phones and cameras.
When I saw the tickets had pre-check on all of us, not just mine, I was like, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. This is like salvation moment right here, because, I mean, I think Jacob had a tablet. He didn't bring a Switch, but he had his tablet, his phone, his portable charger, and Mason had my iPad, his tablet, which he didn't touch, and his little dinky phone that's kind of broken. And, you know, Zeke had his laptop and his phone. And I was just like thinking, oh gosh. And then I had my laptop and everything. And I'm thinking, if I have to take all of this stuff out, I will die.
Oh, I
will literally die.
All by yourself, too, by the way. No one else helping you, just you and the kids. And they're probably off doing who knows what. So you got through security.
Yeah, we got through security. And
then how quickly did it take you to find the gate that you needed?
Oh, let me think back. So, the terminal for Southwest is pretty easy. It's like you go in and it's round inside, and the gates are pretty close together. But that means because Southwest has such a high frequency of flights in San Diego, there was a ton of people, and they have the whole every other seat requirement. So there was no seating when we first got there. And so
are you talking about seating in the waiting room?
Yeah, because we were there early. I'm always at the airport early.
Yeah, I'd probably be the one always getting there late, you know.
Well, I did cut it a little bit closer. We had like only 40 minutes in between once we got through security and boarding, but that's because we had pre-check, so I knew we didn't have to wait as long through security. But we got up there and the boys had to kind of like scout out a place, and I got them some drinks for the plane because I didn't know if they were serving beverages, because it's been weird where they've been like, no beverages.
All COVID thing.
Yeah. So we got sodas and waters and things like that. And then once we got lined up, that's when Jacob and Mason were like, what do we do? What do we do? But the nice thing is that even though we haven't gone into the Southwest terminal before, when you and I first started dating and I would keep an eye on the boys on like Fridays or Saturdays and Zeke was flying home, they'd go through security with me and to wait and get Zeke on the plane. So that was the nice thing, is we've kind of practiced going through security 5 or 6 times. And so they know like nothing in your pockets, no shoes on. That made it really nice because then they weren't unfamiliar with the whole process.
That's great. So you guys get to the gate. I saw Jacob and Mason and Ezekiel, where all three of them were videotaping something, talking about something right there at the gate while you guys are waiting for the plane to show up. You guys were all videotaping, and you took a video of them videoing everything else too.
Okay, so this is hilarious. So the kids are sitting in the chairs at the airport, and Jacob has a GoPro. Zeke has his video camera. It's like I wouldn't say an old school camera, but it's like with the mic at the top of it and like the handheld one. It's pretty big. And then Mason has his phone, and they're like, we're going to vlog all of this. But the funny thing is they're sitting next to each other, and like one would say something and hear the other person say it, and they'd repeat it. And then Mason would repeat it. And it was like, so we're sitting at the gate, guys, we're sitting at the gate. We're at the gate. And it was like listening to them. They were cracking up, and you could hear each other on their video. So you hear, we're sitting at the gate. We're at the gate. We're at the gate.
Oh, funny. But they're all doing it. They have a good time doing it.
They were.
So when they first got onto the airplane, was Jacob Mason super excited to get onto the plane, like walk on and pick a seat? They
were very careful to follow directions. And so Mason it was funny. He was very nervous to actually step onto the plane. And so he was he was standing right behind me, but there's the jet bridge, and then you step into the plane, and he was a little uncertain, and so I held his hand and I said, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then he stepped over and he was like like that. And so then we got on the plane, and I was just looking for spots where I could keep us close together. And so I had Zeke and Jacob together, and then Mason and I together, because they were only 3 and 3 seats. And so it was either 3 of us together and 1 by themselves, so it was better to have travel buddies.
Okay, I got you. So they sat down. Everybody's got their seat. Everybody puts their seatbelt on. Mm-hmm. I saw Jacob was videotaping being in the plane. He was videotaping the actual takeoff of the flight.
Yeah.
And so you guys flew from San Diego. Your first stop was where?
Sacramento.
Sacramento.
I'll say that takeoff was really fun to watch, because I was watching Mason and Jacob to see, like, first of all, are they going to get nervous? And then I had a barf bag just in case one of the kids got sick, which doesn't normally happen unless there's a lot of turbulence. And Jacob was sitting at the window. Mason didn't want to on the first flight. And Jacob was just mesmerized, looking out the window, watching everything change. And then when Mason and I were sitting together, he started leaning over. Oh, the second flight, after we went to Sacramento, we had a layover. And then a second flight, Mason sat at the window on one side and Jacob sat on the window on the other side. And Mason was so excited because he kept seeing snow. And the boys can't recall ever going to visit the snow. And so when they see snow...
Like talking like snow on the mountaintops?
Yeah, snow on the mountaintops. And so Mason was like, there's so much snow. Look at the tall mountains. It was so cute.
Oh, how adorable.
I know.
So you had a layover in Sacramento.
Uh-huh.
And then that layover, how long was that for?
It was like an hour and a half, I think. Yeah.
Okay, an hour and a half, just enough time to grab something to eat, and then get on the plane to head into Seattle.
Well, they weren't hungry because we had a late lunch did I think we ate at the airport? No, we ate at Shake Shack in downtown San Diego before we left, and it was a late lunch at like 2, and so they weren't hungry. So we waited, and then we got on the next plane. And I love Sacramento Airport. I'm super familiar with it, and though
is it real big? Or is it like San Diego size?
I would say that it's one terminal, and I don't think it's as big as San Diego size. It's just the inside of it is broader, like it's wider and high ceilings, and so it feels more open.
Is it because there's more land up there in Sacramento?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's in the middle of a field.
Middle of nowhere. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So you guys leave there, head into Seattle. What time did you guys land actually in Seattle?
I think we landed right around 8:40, and so then I got all the kids off. I'm thankful I checked all of our luggage, so everybody was just carrying a backpack. But then we had to go to the baggage claim and get our bags, and then get out to find the rental car terminal, which ends up there was a shuttle bus. It was off property, so I had to wrangle all the kids onto a shuttle bus, and poor little Mason, his suitcase was heavy for him.
Oh, man, he had to carry it himself, huh?
Well, he wheeled it.
But wheels on it. Yeah, that's right.
But then he kept trying to like be so independent and like put it on the escalator by himself, and I had to keep doing it for him because he almost fell. And then we got on the shuttle bus, and then we went and got our rental car. And at the time we got the rental car and I was up at the counter, the boys were at the point of being cooped up for way too long. So everything was starting to disintegrate at that point.
So I heard that you told me that you had a hard time once you got the rental car and you got to the hotel where you're going to be staying at. There was a situation with the parking lot. Now, please explain what the parking lot situation was all about.
Yeah, so we were staying in downtown Seattle. I found this great hotel called the Hyatt House, downtown Seattle, and it's right across the street from the Space Needle. So it's in the heart of Seattle.
Like any place you want to stay at in Seattle, that's like the spot you want to be at, right?
It is literally the closest hotel to the Space Needle, and that's how they advertise
Now, for those who
themselves.
don't know, the Space Needle is actually a big, long tower thing. It looks like the Stratosphere in Vegas. It's a big, long tower platform thing, right?
I would say it the other way. I'd say that the Stratosphere looks like the Space Needle.
Okay, well, it's a big, long tower with this big, like, spaceship-looking platform at the top.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the Space Needle.
Yeah, and
Okay,
we really
for those who don't know.
And that's where we wanted to go visit is the Space Needle. So I was trying to find a hotel that was near the action, and so I found that one, and I'd been watching it for a few weeks, and then on Easter Sunday, they had a rate sale, and the price went down to like $100 a night, $110 a night, which is super cheap for that part of town. And then it said, parking on site for an additional charge. And so I was like, cool. So I called ahead and I was like, so you have parking available? And they said, yes, we do. So I got there, we pulled around back to the hotel, to the parking garage, and it's like steep down a hill. And so I'm like parked there, and it says, use your hotel key. Well, they'd gone to all touchless entry. So it's like you download an app and it gives you access to your room. So I'm trying to like put my phone up to the garage, and it wouldn't open. So finally from my phone, I called the hotel, and they're like, oh no, you have to come and get a key from us to gain entry to the garage. But
what's this whole point, like a contactless thing about that?
Right, exactly. But it gets better. They said, you have to come in and you have to get a card to get an entry into the garage, but we're sold out in terms of parking for the night. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? And they said to me, well, you can park and unload your luggage, and then you can park your car over at our sister property, the Hyatt Place, which is about a quarter of a mile walk away from here. Mind you, at this point, I'd just gotten McDonald's for all of the kids. We have all of our bags, and they're telling me that I'm going to have to go and park and walk a quarter or a half a mile in the dark, potentially with the children, at 9:45 at night.
Yeah, carrying all of your stuff.
Well, they said I could unload the stuff, but
okay, good.
Still navigating the streets of Seattle, a place where I've never been, at night by myself or with the kids, even worse. And I don't even know, like, is this a great area of town or not? And I was like, I started to get like really upset. And I was like, you know what? Is there another paid lot around? And they were like, yeah, there's other paid like public ones, but you're going to pay whatever the going rate is. And I was like, I don't care.
Well,
and so
yeah.
I found one. It was just on the other side of there's the Space Needle and the Museum of Pop Culture. And there was one right below that. And so I was able to get 10 hours of parking, which I parked at like 10 p.m. So I had until, I don't know, what is that, 8 a.m.? Something like that, to be able to move the car or go and add additional parking. And so I did that and then just went early the next morning. And so Zeke was so great. He was such a great helper on this trip. And I was so stressed because I was like, how am I going to do this and wrangle the kids? But Zeke is 16 now. And so he can take on more initiative. And he said, Mom, it's okay. Because he saw one of the bag trolleys, like the bellhop carts.
Right.
And there was a ramp. And he's like, okay, we can load all this stuff, Mom. I'll take the boys. Just give me a key. I'll take the boys. And I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I'll take them. And so I loaded all the bags, and Jacob held the food or the drinks, and Mason got a bunch of the food, and Zeke pushed. It was like 4 suitcases plus all of our backpacks. It was heavy. They were all masked, and he got the kids upstairs into the room by himself while I went and parked and walked back. And when I came back to the room, he'd unloaded all the suitcases off the little trolley and had everybody sitting down. They were kind of like having a little party in the hotel room.
Of course they were. My goodness.
But it was nerve-wracking because it's the things that you don't think about when you're traveling with children. Like, what happens if there's no parking on site?
Yeah, that's kind of the crazy things that I think about sometimes. I think about all the weird stuff. So what else exciting happened on that day?
Well, I wouldn't say that something exciting happened, but I will say, Chris, that you have ruined traveling for me forever.
What do you mean? What did I do?
Okay, I used to be the spontaneous, live out of your suitcase kind of girl when I traveled, but now I am the unpack everybody into the drawers of the hotel room. And so while the kids were getting settled in for the night, I was getting everybody unpacked because we were going to be there for 3 nights. And it just made more sense, according to Chris, to unpack everything and put it in the drawers.
I like to just unpack and put everything away.
I know you do.
Just get the suitcase off the floor, put it away somewhere, out of sight, out of mind. Everything is in the drawers. Everything is in the bathroom that you need.
Yep.
So now you're officially living in the place.
Exactly. And that's what I did on the first night I let Zeke do what he wanted to do because he's a teenager, but I got the littles unpacked and I got myself unpacked and then got everything into the bathroom. And after they ate, they were so excited for Seattle that it took a while to wind them down. And then they were like wanting to test everything. Like, does the TV work? How do I get on the Wi-Fi? And so it was a late...
All the important stuff we think about when we travel.
And it was a late night the first night. And so finally, I think I was able to finally get to sleep around 1:15. They got to bed late, like 11:30. But I had to get a few more things situated after that. And so finally, I fell asleep. And I just knew I had to set my alarm clock because I knew I had to be up early to go down and add more money to the parking for the car so that we didn't get the rental car towed the next morning.
Fantastic. Well, that's always a good worry to worry about. So, hey, when we come back, we're going to find out more about the great adventure with Kristine and the boys up in Seattle right after this.
Do you love Marvel but are tired of hearing Cheeto-stained white guys talk about it?
Are you hoping to see the X-Men and Avengers face off?
Do you secretly want to be Jessica Jones or Daisy Johnson?
Or do you want to be with Valkyrie?
If so, you've found your new favorite podcast. We're your hosts, Madam Chris
and Madam Amy, and we are here to give you the commentary you want.
Marvel, minus the mansplaining.
Find us wherever you get your podcasts and visit us at themarvelousmadams.com.
Madams assemble.
You know the one thing that will really crush a first date? And that's probably bad skin. But don't you worry. Today's episode here is presented by The Skin Store. For over 20 years, The Skin Store has been the #1 destination for premium skincare, hair care, and beauty products with over 8,000 different products from 300 different brands. The Skin Store has you covered for all your hair, cosmetics, supplements, and of course, skincare needs. Find your favorite brands like Elta MD, NuFace, Olaplex, and all in one place with gifts with every purchase. Well, check that out. Right now, the Skin Store is offering our listeners 20% off your next purchase. What? 20% off? I could use 20% off by using the code POD. That's code POD. POD for 20% off your next purchase at theskinstore.com/pod.list. Skin Store, have the confidence to tackle the day ahead. Some exclusions may apply. Okay, welcome back. And now we are on to Kristine's great travel vacation with all 3 kids up in Seattle, plane ride. They just got into town that night. Now, we're going to continue on her adventure, starting with day #1. You guys wake up in the hotel. You're in a new city, in a new state.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Well, first thing I had to go walk down bright and early and get parking situated for the car because I knew I was going to be parked there for the majority of the day. And so as I was walking back, walking by the Museum of Pop Culture and the Space Needle, I went back through the lobby and they had this grab and go breakfast and they had like Jimmy Dean sandwiches, like sausage sandwiches, and they had cereal and milk and apple juice. And they had these little kind of tiny to-go boxes. They're not the plastic ones. They're the ones that are like brown cardboard that fold over like you would get like a sandwich or something in. And so they were handing those out to people. And I was like, how in the world am I going to do this for all of the boys?
Did they give you like travel bags or a bag or a box?
No, nothing. And I asked for a tray.
Nothing?
Well, it was a to-go box, but it was small. It would only fit like for one person.
It kind of reminds you of those to-go boxes you would get like elementary school cafeteria.
Exactly like that, but with a folding lid on top. But I was filling it. Oh, I didn't even think about not filling it up so high that I could actually fold it and stack it. That would have been smart, Kristine.
A little late in I guess.
But I was like navigating, getting as much as I could and taking it upstairs and getting juice for the boys. And it was so funny because I was standing at the elevator, like trying to carry all this stuff because they didn't have trays or anything. And there was this.
Wait, where were the kids at? Where did they help you out?
They were asleep. I kept them asleep because I didn't want them awake while I went to go do the parking. Otherwise, I'd come back and the room would be destroyed.
Well, okay.
Because they're wild.
Okay.
But as I was at the elevator, there was another lady who was juggling a lot of stuff like me. And I just looked at her and I said, so are you traveling alone? And she was like, yes, with my 4 boys. And I was like,
oh, man.
Oh, sister. I said, I totally relate. And she's like, yeah. And I have an 8:00 Zoom meeting.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, I have an 8:30 training I have to do online because I had one last training.
Wait, is this like your doppelganger?
Yeah. And I was like, so what's your meeting? And she's like, well, I have to appear in court. She's an attorney. And so she was like trying to get her boys all fed. She only had 5 minutes to go.
Did you tell her not to become a cat?
I didn't think about it, but.
Are you the cat lawyer?
But it's funny because she was from San Luis Obispo in California. And it was like funny because she said the same thing. She's like, we haven't been able to do anything. And I figured like there was some inexpensive flights. I could bring the kids up here for a few days, but I had to take one more meeting before I could be off. And I was like, oh, sister, preach. Like, that's exactly what I have to do.
What is she doing on a Zoom meeting out of state? And okay,
she's an attorney.
I understand that, but is she a Zoom attorney or is she a real attorney?
No, because courts aren't back in person in session.
Then what is she doing traveling to Seattle for?
Because courts aren't back in session.
I understand that. What is she going to do a Zoom meeting in Seattle for? That doesn't make any sense.
No, she's in Seattle with her kids, but she had to get onto Zoom to appear in court for California.
Oh, I thought she was doing a court thing in Seattle.
No.
Okay.
She brought her kids to Seattle on spring break, kind of like I did. And so I logged in at 8:30. I had a training, and so the kids were still asleep. That was my goal, bring breakfast back and get through as much of my training as I could while they were still asleep. And thankfully, they only woke up the last 30 minutes, and they were quiet and getting themselves breakfast.
Hey, speaking of spring break and being in Seattle, what was the weather like when you were up there?
Gosh, well, at that point, I didn't realize how cold it was going to be, but it took a turn right after, because after my meeting, we had an appointment to go to the Space Needle, and it wasn't until we were all the way at the top of the 520-foot platform observation deck that I realized just how cold Seattle can get, and I don't think we even know how cold it can get, but up there, I would say it was like maybe 30-mile-an-hour winds. It was a lot.
And it was cold winds, too.
And it was cold. And we were right near the water, so it was like cold and damp.
Oh,
and
the worst.
I had the kids, because I'd felt that it was a little bit cold earlier, so I had them double layer. Every kid was wearing 2 sweatshirts or like a sweatshirt and a jacket. But Zeke gets super cold because he's very thin and his hands were so frozen. And we had gone to 2 gift shops before looking for gloves, and nobody was selling them because it's spring in Seattle.
You actually needed gloves? Like you did get frostbite, you think?
No, because the kids were so cold. I had to buy them winter hats, like beanie caps, and gloves for their hands. So after we finished at the Space Needle, we decided to drive over to Pike's Place Market.
Wait, first, let's go back to the Space Needle.
Okay.
When you get to the top of the Space Needle, what is that thing, that experience like for the little kids when they get to look outside and see the big view of everything?
Well, Jacob and Zeke and I thought it was really cool. Mason is afraid of heights.
No way. Is he really?
Yeah. And so he was very nervous. And when you're up there, the places to sit on, the whole outer piece of it is glass. It's all glass, like thick, like 2-inch, 3-inch thick glass.
Like bulletproof kind of stuff, right?
It was very thick.
Like the stuff you see at the bank sometimes have that.
Thicker.
Thicker than that stuff?
Yes, thicker than that. It was literally like 3 inches thick.
Like the Shamu cage kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm, maybe even more. But it was very thick. And then the benches that you could sit on to take photos, like selfies, were also glass.
No way.
And so if you sit on it, it kind of gives an illusion as if you're
floating in air.
Yes. And they're angled upward a little bit. The benches are kind of angled upward. It's kind of weird to explain. But I had Mason like sit down on it, and he was so nervous because he thought, because it was all see-through, that he was going to slide through the back.
No way. I would have thought the same thing too.
So he was a little nervous. So I had him go inside. They had like a warm area inside, and he could sit on the stools and watch me. But the rule was, as I moved around, he had to follow me.
And he could see you from the glass.
Yeah.
Now, were more people on the outside or on the inside that day? You remember?
Oh, definitely on the outside.
Oh, really? Not the inside? Get nice and warm?
There was a few people. They'd walk through there, but you don't go up to the top of the Space Needle.
What is up there? Is there a restaurant or anything up there?
Typically there is. It was closed while we were there, but they typically have a cafe, and there's a sunset. Well, not during COVID, but there was like a sunset wine experience where you could like have wine and appetizers at sunset on the Space Needle. But then one deck down below, the regular observation deck, is a revolving glass floor observation deck.
No way. So you actually, which way does it move? Like in a circle or what?
Yeah, in a circle.
Or is it like those walking things at the airport?
No, it moves in a circle, but the center of it stays still. So the center and the outside stay still, but it's this like middle section that you can stand on that's glass, and it moves.
And you can see down below?
Yes.
Oh,
all
crazy.
The way down,
No
500 feet. And so Zeke thought it would be so funny to like try and do push-ups on the revolving floor.
Oh, wow. Now, they don't have any crazy rides on that thing like you do at the Stratosphere in Vegas, do they?
No.
Oh, okay. Now, which is taller, the Stratosphere one or this thing?
I don't know. Why are you asking me trivia about Vegas?
I just was wondering about it because I've been to the Stratosphere one. That's the only one I know of. And I just assume this one's very similar to that.
Maybe. I don't know. This one was 520 feet to the observation deck, 605 feet total height with the needle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the cool thing is that our hotel was really close. So once we finished and we went souvenir shopping, we were able to just walk across a little grass lot right back to the hotel and store all of our stuff away.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So after you guys did that, what was your next adventure?
Well, our goal was to go to the Museum of Pop Culture. And so we were walking around the entire thing and we didn't see a line. We're like, this is so cool. And then we realized that the museum is only open Thursday through Sunday.
Wait,
and then we were there on Wednesday.
That was Wednesday. You were there a day early. Got you. Okay. Well, what other cool things were there to see in Seattle?
Well, that's when we decided that we were going to go ahead and venture off that area and out of the area and go down to a place I'd always wanted to go, which is Pike's Place Market.
That's where all the fishermen, they do the fishing and stuff, right?
Yeah, they do the throwing of the fish, but not during COVID.
Do they unload the fish right there in front of you, or how does it work?
Well, we were there later in the day, so typically that stuff happens early in the morning when they're bringing in all the fresh fish. But they have beautiful flowers. Like, I had no idea that in Seattle, they're really well known for tulips, and that tulips are a spring flower. And so they were in full bloom, and daffodils. They were growing freely everywhere around town. But these women had these really unique colorings of tulips and daffodils that if you were to try and get them in California are so freaking expensive.
Oh, wow. And I bet you couldn't get it through across the border. They would at the border, what's the checkpoint, where the agriculture checkpoint?
Yeah,
They'd probably stop you for that stuff.
I don't know, but I wasn't going to risk it.
Oh,
but
I
really wanted to bring some of these daffodils. And they weren't just like regular ones with regular colors. Some of them had these beautiful jagged edges, which are kind of rare. And the unique thing about that Pike's Place Market is that all the vendors there, the majority of them grow those flowers themselves and then cut them and bring them to sell.
All at the fish place?
Yeah, so it's a public market.
Like fish and flowers. It's F&F.
No, so it's a public market. Like here in San Diego, we have the Liberty Public Market, and it has like different restaurants and little shop artisans. There, a public market is like different people have different stalls. So there was like a whole flower area. There was an area for restaurants. There was an area for the fish market. There was an area for like fresh honey, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. And we just walked through it, and down after you went through like the produce floor and you went down to like the restaurant floor, part of it was these really unique shops. And the boys stumbled across one that I didn't even see at first, but they saw the name on it. First they went into a magic shop, and then a little bit further, they saw this thing that said Golden Age collectibles and comics.
No way.
And they were like, we want to go in there. We want to go in there.
Okay, so they go into this comic book collectible store. What kind of stuff do they have there for sale?
Well, get this. I had no idea that in this bottom floor, basically, of the Pike's Place Market was the world's oldest operating comic book shop. And
no way.
Yeah, I had no idea. I looked it up. It's been around since 1961. And so they have so many comic books there and all kinds of memorabilia. So they had tons of Star Wars stuff. They had Harry Potter. They had Avengers, like the what's the fist thing that what's his name wears?
Oh, you mean
not Megatron?
Thanos.
Thanos's
glove.
His glove.
His diamond glove.
Yeah, they had an expensive replica for like $1,400. They all
$1,400.
Yeah.
Were they real? Been out of gold or something?
I don't know. It was fancy.
It was fancy.
It was really fancy.
Can you wear it?
I think, but I'm not sure. It was behind glass. And then they had this whole section where you could buy scripts of different movies that were famous based off of books and comic books. And so they had like the scripts for the Harry Potter movies where you could actually like purchase them for the whole movie. And then they had book section, comic books, all kinds of memorabilia. Each boy decided to use some of their own spending money and buy themselves one special thing from that store.
Wow. What did each of them buy?
So Zeke got this thing called a time turner. I've never seen the Harry Potter movies, but I guess it's a big thing. It's like this necklace and it has a little spinning, almost like a gyroscope, but it has the little hourglass in the center with sand.
So it's like a necklace thing.
Yeah,
you bought. Okay.
It's really cool.
What did Mason get?
Mason bought himself a Pokemon money pouch because he didn't have a wallet.
Okay, cool.
And then Jacob got himself this really cool action figure, which I know he showed to you, but what character is it?
It was Luke Skywalker.
That's what I thought.
From the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope. It was a little action figure of him in his pose when he's shooting the stormtroopers off the drawbridge. It looks like that pose. He's shooting the blaster towards the stormtroopers in that one scene where him and Leia are swinging on the rope across the little bridge thing. It looks like it's that scene there. I think it's what it is.
Well, this place only allowed 20 people in at a time. So at first I just let the boys go and look around because they had their own money. And then like there was this huge line that started building up. And at first I didn't even realize what it was. And there was this couple and they were waiting for a while, and a husband and wife and their baby. And he's like, well, I don't know if I want to wait. And she's like, this is the whole reason we came to this market. And he's like, yeah, I guess so. And she's like, we both wanted to come here. And I was like, oh, is this place a big deal? And then I searched it up and I was like, oh gosh, like it's a really big deal.
How far away did they travel just to come there?
I don't know. I wasn't eavesdropping that much, but
you think it was far though, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was a kind of a big deal. And so it was a really cool little thing that we went to, and then the boys were so excited, like we got to go to the world's oldest comic book shop. And
did they take a picture of it at least? I don't think I saw any pictures of that.
No, I don't know if I did, but they gave us stickers. They're somewhere in one of our bags.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha. Okay,
yeah, it was pretty cool. And so after that, we still hadn't had lunch.
Oh, you guys probably hungry
because we had like a late breakfast.
So what time of day was this at by this time?
Like 3 o'clock.
Oh, that's late to not eat lunch.
I know. And then the boys were freezing and they were like, we refuse to go anywhere else unless you buy us gloves.
Oh, no.
And I had already looked at several places, but then I saw up the street that there was a Target. And I was like, oh, boys, let's go to Target. So we went up to Target. And as we were in Target, we were looking around and they were like, well, there's these basketball gloves and these baseball gloves.
Wait, those look like a thin one.
I know.
Put your fingers through. What's the point in that?
I know. And so then we asked the people there, are there any gloves here for sale? And they're like, no, there's nothing. And then I saw the spring section and I saw the gardening section. And
you did not get them gardening gloves.
I did.
You got them regular gardening gloves?
I did.
Oh, man.
I totally did because there was nothing else and their little hands were all freezing. And so Mason didn't have any in his size. So he wore like man-size gardening gloves and they were like green plastic.
Oh, wow.
And the other boys had these like gray and blue, like canvasy ones. And they were like, it's a little bit better. It's not way better. We look dorky. I was like, but are you warm? So, but then we were there and I saw they had a s'mores section. And I remembered seeing in the elevator at our hotel that they had rooftop fire pits
no way.
On the 8th floor overlooking the Space Needle. And so I said to the boys, let's buy stuff for s'mores.
Oh, did you guys do that after dinner?
We did on that night. Yeah. So I'll get to that in a minute. But after that, after they had their gloves, we drove another mile to this place called Miner's Landing. And it's like an old boardwalk. It's a pier basically over the water. And inside they have like different shops and restaurants. And Zeke saw the sign for it. He really wanted to go a carousel inside. And so they had this old fashioned carousel with the carousel horses.
Oh, so it was like a little gaming area.
Yeah. Well, that's what we discovered. We thought we were just going for the carousel and the giant Ferris wheel called the Great Wheel. But what we found ended up being so much fun. So I paid for the boys to go on the carousel. And as we were on our way walking to the carousel, they saw a game arcade. And we were like, oh, that's so cool. And then after that, we went to the Great Wheel, which is this giant Ferris wheel at the end of the pier that's partially over the water.
Crazy.
And then when we got down from that, and it was all enclosed, so it was warm.
Oh, is it like the one in Vegas?
Yeah, like the high roller.
So Vegas is basically copied Seattle, right?
Maybe pieces of it.
It looks like they did. So are they little round-shaped pods you're in?
Not round. They were a little bit more rectangular.
Okay.
But yeah, same concept.
But they were enclosed,
Yeah.
and like the whole thing was enclosed. They have like music and they're playing and stuff?
No, they had music outside. You could upgrade to the VIP cabins to get music, and that was like a champagne toast and glass bottomed, and no, we weren't going to
Wait,
do
yours
that.
wasn't glass bottom?
No, it was $50 a person, dude.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the cool thing is once you go up half the way, the second half of the way brings you down over the water.
Crazy, huh?
And for Mason, he was like, I don't like this.
Oh, no.
And it was windy, so we were
man.
stable. But when we came down from that, then Zeke was like, Mom, let's do Wings Over Washington. And he kept asking for this thing. And I was like, what's Wings Over Washington? And he said, it's like a VR ride. And I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, all right, fine. Like, we're here. I have money set aside. Might as well. So we go into this thing, and it's like a little attraction. And we go up to this little room, and it looks like a wooden cabin inside. And it had these 3 tiny little screens. And this like Ranger Joe kind of character comes in. And he's like, welcome. And we're going to go stargazing in Washington, all virtual reality. And then he starts saying, in the ride, make sure to fasten your seatbelt. And he like shows a seatbelt, and everybody's looking around these wooden benches, and we're like, are we in the wrong place? And then he's like, and there's baskets underneath your seat for all of your belongings. Make sure to put them
But you're
there.
like sitting in this little waiting room, so it's like
Well, we didn't know that because you look around and there was no exit other than where we came in, which was up this staircase. And so it goes through this little like introduction to Washington. And then he said, for like, to know what's next, look to your tour guide. And there was a staff member there. And so we all turned around, and a secret passageway, no joke, opened up from the wall.
No way.
And there was like smoke coming out of it, and it revealed a secret staircase.
I'd be like so scared
It
going
was
to that
like
thing.
so cool. And then we went up the secret staircase into a room, and then it was a ride like from Disneyland, like the Soaring Over the World. Exactly like that. You strap into this ride, and then it takes you on this virtual reality trip following, they call it the First People, which are Native Americans. So the First People tribe of, I don't know what, but they had this, I guess totem poles are native to Washington. I didn't know that.
Oh,
and
no way.
the very, you almost cussed right there.
I know.
So first thing, like they take you up and you see a totem pole, and at the top is what they called a thunderbird, which was like an eagle, kind of like an eagle. And then all of a sudden it lights up and it turns into like a starry outline, and then it becomes a real bird and it starts flying. And this whole ride, you're following this bird flying over different areas of Washington. And it was beautiful. And it was just like the one at Disneyland where they have like the little bit of mist and like the essential oil.
Do you guys smell stuff on the ride too?
Yeah,
so
we did.
For those who may not know what that Soaring Over California, which they've changed into Soaring Over the World ride is, you're basically in like this kind of gondola, not gondola, it's kind of like a swing, big giant swing set.
Yeah.
That you're in. And everybody is in a big swing set. There's a group of like 5 or 6 in a set, in a swing set.
Yeah, something like that.
And the whole thing moves everybody up in front of a screen. And when you're
the screen's kind of curved, right?
Yeah, it's like a big IMAX curved screen, all IMAX. And what that does is that the chair you're sitting in, it kind of pivots and swivels back and forth as you're right in front of the screen.
But it brings you close enough that you don't see what's above you or the sides. You're immersed in this virtual reality type of ride.
Right.
And it, like you said, it moves you. So as this bird is flying, it's moving us to the right and to the left and slightly dipping down. And we're all buckled in. And little Mason, he was like, this is so cool. And it was Zeke's idea. So he's like, Mason, do you like it, Mason? I was like, shh. Let him enjoy it. But I would say that was one of the highlights. That was so fun. And Zeke found it. And it was like something we didn't even expect to stumble upon. And I would say that that's my biggest thing with this trip is other than like reserving for the Space Needle and I reserved for a trampoline park. I just said like, let's just figure out what's interesting to us and let the boys kind of call the shots for the trip.
I think it'd be a good idea to have each one of them to kind of really pick a day, though. Like, say, Mason, you pick what we're doing this day. Jacob, pick what's doing that day. And then
well, maybe, but they all agreed on things. They were like, at first, Zeke's like, let's do this Wings Over Washington. The boys were like, well, what's that? And I said, well, tell the boys what it is. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And I said, okay. And then afterwards, Jacob said, well, can we go back to the arcade? And I said, well, sure. So I took them back to the arcade, and they used all their money, like their dollar bills from their Easter eggs.
Of course they did. All the machines, right?
Yeah, they didn't use all of them.
Like the one-armed bandit got
They
them.
had like $6 each that they spent, but these were like old school video games, so they took a lot longer. That wasn't like 5 seconds and you're done. It was like they could actually play for 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. So they
Yeah.
actually played the games and had a good time. So that was the very first day?
Yeah, and then
In one day?
And then we ended the
My
day.
goodness.
They had a Red Robin at the pier right next to it. So we waited for 20 minutes, and then we got a waterfront seat. We were indoors, but we got to watch the sunset over Puget Sound while eating Red Robin burgers.
Wait, what's Puget Sound?
Puget, P-U-J, or P-U-G-E-T. It's this waterway. It's like it enters out into, I think, the Salish Sea and then into the Pacific Ocean. But it's the area where it's really beautiful. It looks like a gigantic lake, but it's part of the ocean.
Okay, cool.
And so it's actually native to 75 wild orcas.
No way.
Yeah.
Shamu itself?
Yeah.
Did you see Shamu?
No, we wanted to, but next trip we'll have to go do.
Every
whale
single
watching.
orca, you got to call it Shamu. You can't call it anything else. They're all Shamu to me.
No, but they have like they're protected and followed, and there's like they birth new babies every year, and it's a big thing up in Washington. And so, but the boys and I got to watch the sunset over the Puget Sound and watch the ferry boats coming in. And then after that, they were very tired, but they said we had to do s'mores. So we went back and we grabbed all of our stuff and we went up to the 8th floor terrace on the hotel. And it was a spectacular view. And when I say spectacular, it was like the top of the terrace, there was a fire pit, and you're sitting there roasting s'mores, staring at like 8 stories up on the Space Needle.
And the Space Needle's all lit up too, right?
Yeah, and it looked so close, like you felt like you could touch it.
No way.
It was so gorgeous.
So that capped day number 1. Now,
Yeah.
day number 2, how'd that go?
Oh, well, day number 2 was great. So let me think. Oh, I'd made reservations at a trampoline park for the kids.
Now, trampoline parks, we have those here. So what makes this trampoline park so different?
Well, a lot of ours have gone out of business because of COVID.
Did they really?
Yeah, a bunch of them
I
have shut
had
down.
no idea.
Yeah, so Uptown Jungle, which is near us, is completely done. They're moved to Arizona.
Are you kidding me?
No joke.
No way.
Yeah, they shut down. And
Oh,
then
man.
like all the sky zones are still closed. Some of them are starting to open up, like the Ninja Factory, but there's all kinds of precautions. But this one's called Defy. And there's one where Zeke lives up in Fresno. And I've taken him before, and it's really cool. It's, first of all, it's like twice as big as any of the other trampoline parks I've been to. And it's not just trampolines. So they have trampolines, they have ultimate dodgeball, they have a rock climbing wall, they have a trapeze area into a foam pit, they have like the ninja obstacles, the things that you are like with the, I don't
The
know, they kind
jousting?
of look,
The
yeah, like kind of like
jousting.
jousting. And then there's another one that has like the swinging, they almost look like punching bags that you navigate around. And
Do they have the one where the kids have to like jump over the moving like log that spins around in a circle and the kids have to jump over it?
no, not that one, but pretty much everything else. And it's really big in there, and they have couches for the parents to sit in.
Oh gosh, those couches.
Yeah.
That's the best ride in the park.
No. And so the kids were jumping around, and they had a ton of fun, and it was like an hour and a half. And then after that, we didn't have any plans. What they wanted to do actually is to just go back and relax at the hotel for a little bit.
Oh, chill out.
I know. It's like music to my ears.
So you guys went back to the hotel, chilled out. Now, what did you guys do for dinner that night?
Well, before we did that, we went to the Museum of Pop Culture to
You
see-
finally got in that place.
No, we went to the Museum of Pop Culture to see if we could get in,
Oh, you didn't get in.
and it
yet.
was sold out.
Oh, man.
But the visitor services person, Jasmine, that was outside was so sweet. And she said, come back at 4. And if the line's shorter, we'll let you in. We don't close till 6. And I was like, okay. So the boys and I just kind of like hung out and did a few things and just kind of relaxed. And they played some games in the room. And we went to lunch, a late lunch at a place that was 1 block from our hotel. And it was a pizza place. Guess what it was called?
Pizza Port,
It was called Zeke's Pizza.
as in Ezekiel himself.
Yeah, Zeke's Pizza.
So there's a pizza place named after Zeke.
There's a chain of pizza places called Zeke's Pizza.
Why we haven't seen them? If they're a chain of them.
They're up there in Washington.
Oh, great.
And
Okay.
it was some of the best pizza I've ever had.
I saw the picture. So all 3 of the kids had their own pizza. Was it like Pyology where they build your pizza for you kind of thing?
You could. I mean, you can order any kind of pizza that you want, but they decided they each wanted a mini pizza. And at that point, Mason, this is where a little bit of Mason's moodiness started, where he started to cry and said, after he ordered his pizza, decided that he did no longer liked pizza.
Wait, he always liked pizza.
No, he no longer likes pizza. He'll eat the pepperoni and he will eat the crust from the top, but he won't eat the middle part.
Whatever,
Which is so weird because most kids won't eat the crust, they'll eat the middle.
That's so weird.
So like,
they also like salmon too. It's also kind of a weird thing too. So
yeah. And that's so funny because the day before at the public market, we found a fish place to eat for lunch. And the other kids had like fried prawns, tempura fried prawns. And I had clam chowder in a bread bowl. And Mason, he walked up and he said, "I'd like the grilled salmon, please."
He told the lady that at the front of the counter?
The man.
At the counter?
And then the other guy was filleting it. And then he walked over because we were sitting at a counter and eating. And he's like, "We have a salmon eater here, huh?" Because Mason was watching him fillet a king salmon.
Oh, wow. Was he like glued to the guy watching him do it?
He was like, "I'm going to eat that whole thing."
No, he's not. Did he really say that? Yeah, did it have the head and everything on? He chopped the head off?
Yeah, and he watched it. And he didn't find
crazy.
any problem with it. And Mason was like, "That's so cool." And then he said to me, "I think I really want to eat a salmon eyeball."
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Oh,
so we went to
wow.
Zeke's Pizza the next day. And then by the time we were done, we walked back to the Museum of Pop Culture. We found Jasmine again. And she said, "I'm so sorry."
Oh, no, Jasmine, you're letting me down, Jasmine.
She said, "I can't let you in today. We're at capacity, but she was like, "You guys are so sweet." And it was so funny because I've been telling the boys, like, be very kind to people just because it's the right thing to do. But when you are, you'll see how people respond to you differently. Because we were very understanding. We were like, "We understand. It's okay if we can't get in." The boys really wanted to do it. And she's like, "Well, come back tomorrow." I said, "I'll have the puppy." And I said, "But how old can kids be to go in by themselves?" And she said, "Oh, 13. And I said, "Well, can my 16-year-old and my 11-year-old go together?" And she was like, yeah, no problem. And she's like, "Let me be right back." And so she was getting ready to leave. And this other people came up to her and they were like, "You told us to return at 4 p.m. They were so rude. And she was like, "I'm sorry, but I'm at capacity. I'm not going to be able to help you." And they were like, "But you said." And she was like, "I'm sorry, I can't help you." And so what she did is she brought back a return slip for the next day at 10:45. And she gave guaranteed admission to the two boys the next day at 10:45. And they were so pumped.
How much was it to go to this thing?
$30 each.
Wow, for kids?
30 and 25.
No.
30 for an adult because over 12 is an adult.
Crazy.
Yeah. And it was like they had a Minecraft exhibition. They had a Pearl Jam exhibit. They had Rolling Stones. They had Guns N' Roses. Lots of pop culture.
Like music, all pop culture stuff, huh?
They had like a guitar exhibit there of like guitars through history. And so the boys really wanted to go, but Mason was like, "I don't care." And so, it was so close to the hotel and I could track their location that I felt that it was okay. There was one entrance and one exit. Like nobody was going to take them. And Zeke's pretty hostile when anybody tries to get near him.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we knew we had guaranteed admission the next day. So then I said to the boys, like, they asked, "Can we go back to the arcade?" And I said, "Sure." So I took them back to the arcade down at the Miners Landing. And then afterwards, because we'd had that late lunch, I was like, "Well, what do we want to do for after this?" And I was like, "Well, let's go get ice cream." And so I looked up the best ice cream in Seattle. And
with 31 flavors.
It was called Molly Moons.
Molly Moons.
Molly Moons. And so we drove 10-15 minutes and we found one of the locations, which was one of the originals, and parked and went in. And of course the boys were so excited to order special ice cream. It was like kind of like the place that we love where they have like the custom flavors.
Are you talking about salt and straw?
Yes, thank you. I blanked out.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that.
Hey, speaking of original things in Seattle, I heard in Seattle there's the original Starbucks. Did you see that when you were there?
We saw it. We did. It was down right across from Pike Place Market. But there was like 50 people in line, and I really...
That's normal for a Starbucks, though, isn't it?
Well,
with the COVID restrictions?
Kind of, but... it was so long and I really wanted to go, but for me, it was like, okay, well, I saw it. Starbucks drinks are going to taste the same everywhere.
Okay, the only thing I have to say is, does the original Starbucks look like all the rest of the Starbucks?
No, it looks different.
What's different about it?
Different outside completely, and the inside
Is the logo different?
The logo is the same, but like the paint coloring, it doesn't look as modern because it's in like a like an older area. It's like a fish market area, and so it just came up as like, when it first started, it was just like a coffee shop. But now,
like a small little coffee, like your typical small, independent, just corner coffee shop, not a name brand place.
Yeah, it's like second door in. It's not like a freestanding building. It's part of like a strip mall area. And so I saw it, and then I was like, you know what? The boys really want to go to Miners Landing. I don't want to keep them in line that long, so I sacrificed it for them.
I don't think you really could care less about the Starbucks thing, really.
But I do.
I know.
I let it go.
We do
let it go,
because thank you. But I was wondering about the Starbucks, the first Starbucks there. It's kind of cool seeing the first time you see like the original. When did it start, by the way?
Ooh, good question. I don't know.
It was like 90s or 80s?
I think it was 80s.
Was it 80s?
I'm pretty sure it was in the 80s.
I remember in the early
80s
90s.
or 70s.
Well, I don't think it's that old, but I do remember the 90s, like right after high school, because I'm old kids. And I remember seeing it pop up everywhere, this whole Starbucks thing everywhere. It was a big fad, this whole Starbucks stuff.
Yeah.
Right after high school. So I'm guessing maybe it was in 80s or early 90s.
I think it was in 80s. I think I read about that in a book somewhere.
Okay.
But anyway, so no, I didn't stop in there, but I did take the kids to this ice cream shop, and we went inside, and we all ordered our ice cream, and we sat outside at a little table. And right when we sat down, I haven't told you this story. It was actually a pretty crazy incident. We walk outside, and there's this young Black couple walking up the street with their dog. And there's this lady, a white gal, brown hair and a ponytail in front of them. And she has this white dog that's muzzled. And her dog's going crazy. And she's like yelling at them like, can't you see? I'm trying to get my dog away from you. So just stop following me. And right in front of the ice cream shop. And the couple was like taken aback. Like they just looked like they were out for a stroll. And so the lady, this Caucasian lady, like doubles back, and she's like, just keep your dog away from my dog. And they were like, what in the world?
Did both people have dogs?
Yeah, they had a dog that was, the Black couple was very calm. Their dog was very calm and non-responsive, but the Caucasian woman had this white, almost husky looking dog, like a husky, and it was going crazy, and it was muzzled. Like you could tell that dog had behavior problems, and it was like, rawr, like barking like that. And she like went right by us, almost knocked my chair over, this Caucasian woman did. And the couple, like they looked really startled, and Zeke just yelled, he yelled after this lady. He's like, you're such a Karen. and then they were like, are they okay? And so I went over to the couple and I said, hey, are you guys okay? That was not okay. And the wife was like, no, we're fine. It's okay. I was like, it's not okay. And their dog was so cute. And the man looked very rattled by that whole incident. And he's like, dude, we just came here to get some ice cream. And I said, I am so sorry that woman treated you like that. Can we go get your ice cream for you? Can we do anything for you? And he's like, no, I'm just going to sit here. And his wife went inside. She's like, honey, can I get you anything? And he's like, no, I'm fine. I'll just share with you. And the man's dog was very calm, very well-mannered. And I could tell that whole incident was very, very troublesome to him. It's like the things that you see on TV. And I was so proud of our kids. I didn't tell you this, Chris, but they looked over at the dog, and Zeke went over first, and he said to the man, he's like, that lady wasn't really nice. Is your dog okay? And he was like, yeah, he's fine. And he said, can I pet him? And then Mason came over, and he's like, his dog is so cute. And then they just sat there, and I talked with the man while we were eating our ice cream. And he said, we drove up here from, he said, this other town, I think it was called Layton or something like that, or it doesn't even matter. It was a L word. And he's like, we just drove up here because it's our anniversary and we can't really do anything for COVID. And the dog is his service animal. So it's trained to not respond, when things like that happen. And, here you have this young Black couple in the middle of the afternoon doing nothing but walking to go and get ice cream, being verbally accosted by a woman with a crazy dog and screamed at. And so I was really proud of our boys, because the thing that they wanted to do was like tend to the dog. And then I just talked with the couple and then offered to take a photo of them and like check in with them. And the wife kept saying, I just said, I'm really sorry that happened. You didn't deserve that. And she said, it's okay. And I looked at her, and I looked at both of them, and I said, it's not okay.
Right.
And you don't have to say it's okay. And she said, thank you for that. And she said, I think I've become so accustomed to things like that in my life that I just say it's okay so people don't feel bad. And I said, we don't feel bad. That was wrong. You guys did not deserve to be treated like that. And if we can help bring a little bit of sunshine to your day, then that's what we're going to do. And we took a photo. I took a photo of them for their anniversary with their little puppy, and we tried to help bring a little bit of peace back to them since we couldn't go after that other woman. She just took off. But it was such a troubling incident. And I was incredibly proud of our boys to come to the aid of the people that were being victimized, and they recognized it for what it was.
Right.
And they called it out. I mean, that the only term they know is a Karen. And so then I talked with them about discrimination in the car, and they reflected on that moment, seeing it play out. And they said they did nothing wrong. And I said, exactly. They did nothing wrong other than walking on the street and being seen by somebody as being a different color than them. And so we will never look at people differently, and always come to their help and always stand up for them. And so, it was a really crazy moment. And it was like, God led us to that ice cream shop at that exact time to be there to be helpers for these people that were just going out to try and enjoy their anniversary.
Oh, that's bad.
It was bad. Their dog was a blend between a lab and a Rottweiler, and it was so cute.
Adorable.
And its name is Jace.
Jace.
And so the boys were excited because they have Jake and Jade at home, and then they met Jace, and then Mason was like, Kristine, can I please take a picture of that dog? It's just so cute.
Well, you have to ask the owner.
Yeah, we didn't. I said, let them just enjoy their time, Mason. He's like, I just love it so much.
So speaking of dogs, on the third day in Seattle,
yes.
What was that day all about? Because I got a phone call in the morning.
I know.
Actually, a FaceTime call in the morning. So in the morning, you guys wake up, and what do you guys do?
We woke up early, and we drove to meet the breeder of our puppy in Issaquah, Washington, which was about a 25-minute drive. And we picked up our new baby, Habibi Bear. Her name is Clover.
Little Clover is so adorable. So
she looks like a living teddy bear.
Oh, she really does. But I didn't realize how small she was until I saw her in person.
Yeah.
But when you guys see Clover, do they bring Clover out to you? How's that? What's the process like?
Okay, so the guy was texting us to let us know his ETA, and he was running 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
ETA to where?
To meet at the meeting place. It was like a Target parking lot.
Oh, they don't meet you? They don't meet at the actual facility?
No. They live about an hour and a half outside of Seattle. So he had to drive in, and it was delivery day. So he had 5 other deliveries to do.
Okay.
And so he was delivering to another area outside of Seattle and then to Portland. And so it was quite a drive. They had to arrange everything just right. And so you could hear all the puppies in the back of the car with him. And so we'd parked and we were waiting. And I texted him to say, just let us know you're here. And he said, I'm parked in the green Subaru on the southwest side of the parking lot.
I bet Subarus are really popular in Washington.
Yeah, they are.
Everybody's got a Subaru. Like, what Subaru? Which one? That one or this one? There's like 80 of them in the parking lot.
Well, he parked by himself off in the corner. So as I pulled around, we saw him pull Clover out, and he was brushing her. And the boys, they just go, oh my gosh, she's so tiny. And we pull in, and they jumped out. And I was like, mask up, boys, because everybody in Washington is serious about masking that we saw. So they masked up, and they walked right over, and they just, she was shaking and so nervous. And they just started loving on her. And oh my gosh, literally, she's like a living teddy bear.
But she's super, super tiny. I mean,
she's very tiny.
I didn't realize how small she was from the pictures, but she's jumping around Mason in the video, jumping around Mason you FaceTime me with.
I know.
But when I see her in person, I'm like, this little thing will fit in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, she's so little.
So anyways, you guys get the dog, and you guys load her up in the car and bring her back to the hotel. That's when you called me on FaceTime when you guys got back to the hotel room. And I see on FaceTime this little fur ball just running around the hotel room, jumping from kid to kid, licking face to face, and getting to be running around like a cute little thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's so cute.
And she was so tiny that I didn't realize how small. I knew she was small because she's a teacup size. But she was so tiny that she gets cold very easily. And so we had to walk the boys down to the Museum of Pop Culture. And it was a very cold morning. It was 46 degrees. And so the only thing that I could think of doing, because I wasn't going to carry her in her kennel, was I stuck her inside of my sweatshirt. And so all you could see was her little head. And she was nestled up against me and just kind of like that. And people kept looking at her. And then when she would get really cold or scared, she would just pull herself all the way inside of my sweatshirt and just crawl around. So cute
around there. So how was her first night with you guys?
Well, we brought her straight home.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
okay.
we walked the boys down to the Museum of Pop Culture. They had a few hours to go. And then I had to figure out how to not just wrangle 3 boys through security, but wrangle 3 boys plus a puppy through security and 2 flights.
That must have been fun.
She cried most of the first flight. She was so nervous. And you can't take them out of their carrier unless they're a certified service dog.
And she wasn't, obviously.
No, she's not. And so we had to keep her in, and she cried, and she had a little potty accident. But she was so distraught that first flight. And, she's so little, I didn't think to get her anything to help her relax. Because there's like little gummies you can give puppies to help them relax on flight.
Is it like the, was it like NyQuil or something kind of help knock them out?
Kind of, but it's safe for dogs. But I didn't want to do anything like that. The second flight, she was an angel. But in between flights, we had puppy pads set out. And so she could play on them. We didn't want her to get any germs. And we had her toys, and she just wore herself out. So she slept the whole second flight.
Oh, so you got her home and everything last night. And I was here last night. I met her for the first time.
She stayed up.
She was so adorable. She stayed up for me.
Until 2:30 in the morning.
She was so adorable and so cute. And then she was sleeping, but she was still kind of like your...
Well, she's crying. And the way I was explaining it to our boys, because they were like, why does she cry so much? And I said, well, imagine if you were to be taken away from your brothers and sisters and your mommy and given to new people that you didn't know, and you didn't know their habits, and it was kind of loud and busy. And then you had all of these like airplane and bus and car, and it's unfamiliar. And you're away from your mommy and your brothers for the first time. And now you're having to go to sleep in a place you've never been before all by yourself when you're used to sleeping with everyone else. And I said, we've just got to be understanding that this is a lot for a tiny little animal. And so I was already prepared, and I slept a bit on the second plane. And then I know for these first few days while we're crate training her that she's going to cry. That's what baby puppies do, is they just, until they get settled into their routine, they've just kind of get familiar with this. So halfway through the night last night after you came home, I took her downstairs because she was crying so much. And I just knew that I needed to keep her separate. So she slept for half the night in her crate. And then half the night, she wanted out of her crate, and she just slept on the carpet right outside of her crate.
Oh, and that, folks, was Kristine's fabulous spring break vacation to Seattle.
My pupcation.
Your puppycation. So it all topped off with getting a brand new pet and bringing it on down to San Diego.
Yeah. And we're so grateful to have her. She is such a beautiful animal. And I've posted it on my Instagram, my personal Instagram. So kfierce_love.
We will put it on the K2 Show's Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff after this episode drops.
And then you can just, learn more about this really unique breed of puppies that are really cared for well and are responsibly bred and are really there. I think she's going to be a great addition for me after going through COVID and so many different changes and finishing school to be my little companion. She's just the perfect little angel.
Oh, she's adorable. And we will probably put pictures on our website, which is... www.chrisandchristinесhow.com, and that's Chris and Kristine with K's. That is correct. And thank you so much once again for listening to Kristine's amazing story of her amazing vacation, wrangling 3 boys on 4 different airplane flights, and coming back with another person,
4-legged friend,
with a 4-legged furry animal, little teddy bear, Habibi bear, teddy bear Clover. And bringing her down on the flight and wrangling all that stuff up for an entire week all by herself. I give you props, babe. You are truly Dr. Kristine.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. And we'll be back here with you next week. Remember this week that life is too short to wake up in the morning with regret.
So love the people who treat you right. Forget about the ones who don't, and believe that everything happens for a reason.
If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said that it would be easy.
They just promised it would be worth it. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Chris.
And I'm Kristine. And until next week,
keep moving forward.